Sometimes we move through life so quickly that we forget to pause and ask ourselves why. Why are we here? Why do our hearts feel heavy at times, even when everything around us seems fine? And why is it that in moments of silence, our souls begin to speak the loudest? Every single person listening today has carried something unseen, a worry no one noticed, a tear wiped away before anyone could ask, a prayer whispered quietly, just hoping that things will make sense one day. And that in itself is a reminder you are not alone in what you feel. Life has a way of testing us, not to break us, but to reveal us. Often, what feels like a delay is actually protection. What feels like loss may be redirection. And what feels like emptiness could simply be space being made for something far greater than we ever imagined. We live in a world that constantly demands more success, more approval, more noise. Yet peace is rarely found in more. It is found in clarity, in sincerity, in remembering what truly matters when everything else is stripped away. Today is not about perfection. It is not about having all the answers. It is about awareness. It is about allowing the heart to soften, the mind to reflect, and the soul to breathe again. Because sometimes all it takes to change the direction of a life is one moment of sincere reflection. And perhaps, just perhaps, this moment is one of them. The quiet power of intention and purpose is something many people overlook, yet it shapes the direction of our lives more than we realize. Long before actions are seen, before words are spoken, before outcomes unfold, there is an intention forming quietly within the heart. It makes no noise. It does not announce itself. Yet it is powerful enough to turn ordinary moments into meaningful ones and simple steps into journeys of transformation. You see, intention is not about impressing others. It is not about being noticed or applauded. It is about sincerity. It is about what drives you when no one is watching. Two people can perform the same action, say the same words, walk the same path, but the weight of what they do can be entirely different, simply because of what rests in their hearts. And that is where purpose begins to take shape. Many of us spend years chasing results, believing that success lies only in what is visible. We measure our lives by achievements, by titles, by numbers, by approval. Yet purpose does not always shout. Often it whispers. It shows itself in consistency, in patience, in choosing what is right, even when it is difficult. It is not always glamorous, but it is always grounding. When intention is clear, even small actions carry meaning. A kind word becomes an act of mercy. A moment of patience becomes a form of strength. A sincere effort, though unnoticed, becomes valuable beyond measure. And this is why purpose does not require a grand stage. Some of the most impactful lives are lived quietly, guided by intention rather than recognition. There are moments when life feels confusing, when direction seems lost, and the future feels uncertain. In those moments, the problem is often not a lack of ability, but a lack of clarity. When intention is scattered, the heart feels restless. But when intention is aligned, even hardship feels manageable. You may not understand the reason behind every test, but you trust that there is meaning beyond what you can see. Purpose also brings patience. It reminds you that not everything needs to happen immediately. Growth takes time. Change unfolds gradually. Just as seeds do not become trees overnight, the most meaningful transformations are often slow and quiet. Yet every sincere step forward counts, even when progress feels invisible. One of the greatest strengths of intention is that it anchors us during trials. When things go wrong, when expectations collapse, when plans fall apart, intention reminds us why we began in the first place. It shifts the question from why is this happening to me, to what can this teach me? And in that shift, resilience is born. There is also a deep sense of peace that comes with purpose. Not the absence of difficulty, but the presence of meaning. You may still feel tired. You may still feel challenged, but you are no longer lost. You understand that your efforts are not wasted, that every sincere attempt has value, even if the results are delayed or different from what you hoped for. Intention also refines the heart. It humbles us. It teaches us to check ourselves before judging others, Because when you focus on your own purpose, you realize how little time there is to criticize, to compare, to compete. Instead, you learn to improve quietly, to grow consistently, and to leave outcomes in the hands of something greater than yourself. And perhaps most beautifully, intention transforms ordinary life into worship of meaning. Daily routines gain significance. Struggles gain dignity. Even setbacks become part of the journey rather than the end of it. You begin to see life not as a race, but as a trust one that must be carried with care, honesty, and sincerity. So never underestimate the quiet power of intention. It may not be seen, but it is always felt. It may not be celebrated, but it is always counted. When intention is sincere and purpose is clear, even the smallest steps can lead to the greatest destinations. And sometimes, the most powerful changes begin silently within the heart. Life's trials are often misunderstood. When difficulty arrives, our first instinct is to ask, why me? We see hardship as a sign of failure, a punishment, or a dead end. Yet, if we pause long enough, we may realize that many of the moments that shaped us the most were not moments of ease, but moments of struggle. Trials are not always sent to break us very often, they arrive to build us. Every challenge carries a lesson, though the lesson is rarely obvious at the beginning. Pain has a way of clouding perspective. When the heart is heavy, it becomes difficult to see beyond the moment. But growth does not announce itself while it is happening. It reveals itself later, when we look back and realize how much stronger, wiser, and more grounded we have become. Despair often comes from believing that hardship has no purpose. When we feel that suffering is meaningless, the weight becomes unbearable. But when we understand that trials are invitations to grow, the same hardship takes on a different meaning. It no longer asks, can you survive this? Instead, it asks, who will you become because of this? Life tests everyone, though the tests differ in form. Some are tested with loss, others with loneliness, others with uncertainty, failure, or disappointment. And often, the heaviest tests are the ones no one else sees. The silent battles, the internal struggles, the prayers made in isolation. Yet these are often the very moments that refine the soul the most. Growth does not come from comfort. Comfort maintains, but difficulty transforms. It teaches patience when impatience feels easier. It teaches humility when pride wants to take over. It teaches trust when control slips from our hands. And though these lessons are uncomfortable, they shape character in ways ease never could. There is wisdom in understanding that not every closed door is rejection. Sometimes it is protection. Sometimes what we wanted so badly was never meant to last because it would have limited our growth rather than expanded it. Loss, in this sense, is not always subtraction. At times, it is redirection guiding us away from what would have harmed us in the long run. Trials also reveal what truly matters. When everything is going well, it is easy to become distracted, attached, and complacent. But when difficulty strikes, the unnecessary falls away. We become more sincere in our prayers, more honest with ourselves, more aware of our dependence on something greater than our own strength. In hardship, the heart often reconnects with its true source of peace. Despair whispers that the pain will last forever. Growth reminds us that nothing in life is permanent, not even hardship. Just as ease can change, so can difficulty. And often, relief arrives in ways we never expected, from directions we never imagined. What feels like an ending may simply be the beginning of a different chapter. One of the greatest dangers during trials is isolation. We convince ourselves that no one understands, that our pain is unique, that seeking help is a sign of weakness. Yet growth often requires humility, the humility to ask, to share, to lean on others when the weight becomes too heavy to carry alone. Strength is not pretending to be unaffected. Strength is continuing despite the pain. Trials also teach compassion. When you have struggled, you become gentler with others. You become less judgmental, more patient, more understanding. Pain, when processed with reflection rather than bitterness, softens the heart. It turns wounds into wisdom and scars into reminders of survival. And so, when life becomes difficult, resist the urge to despair. Despair closes the heart. Growth opens it. You may not choose your trials, but you can choose how you respond to them. You can allow them to harden you, or you can allow them to refine you. Every challenge you face carries the potential to elevate you, if you let it. It may slow you down, but it will not stop you unless you give up. And remember, the storms that test the strength of the tree are the same storms that deepen its roots. In time, you will stand stronger, not despite the trial, but because of it. It is easy to look at people and assume we know their stories. We see smiles, confidence, laughter, and moments of apparent success, and we conclude that life must be gentle with them. But the truth is far deeper than what appears on the surface. Every soul carries unseen struggles, burdens tucked quietly into the corners of the heart, carried silently through daily life. And this reality, if we truly reflect on it, should change the way we treat one another. Many people wake up each day already exhausted, not from physical effort, but from emotional weight. Worries about the future, regrets from the past, fears that no one else knows about. They show up to responsibilities, fulfill expectations, and smile politely, while inside they are fighting battles that words cannot easily explain. And often, the strongest looking individuals are the ones who have learned to hide their pain the best. Life teaches us early how to mask our struggles. We are encouraged to appear strong, composed, unaffected. Vulnerability is sometimes mistaken for weakness, so people choose silence over honesty. They learn to carry pain alone, convincing themselves that no one would understand anyway. Yet the heart was never meant to carry heavy loads in isolation. When we remember that every soul carries unseen struggles, judgment becomes harder. Harsh words lose their appeal. Impatience begins to soften. That person who seems distant may be overwhelmed. The one who reacts sharply may be hurting deeply. The one who appears fine may be barely holding on. And suddenly, kindness becomes not just a virtue, but a necessity. There is wisdom in pausing before reacting, in choosing gentleness when frustration feels easier, because we rarely know what someone has endured before crossing our path. A single comment, a careless tone, or a moment of dismissal can become the final weight added to an already heavy heart. And just as easily, a kind word, a sincere smile, or a moment of understanding can become a source of relief someone desperately needed. Unseen struggles also remind us to be honest with ourselves. Many of us compare our inner chaos to others' outward calm and conclude that we are failing. But comparison is unfair when we only see fragments of each other's lives. Behind closed doors, behind social appearances, behind achievements and titles, people wrestle with doubts, fears, and pain, much like our own. Some struggles are emotional, others are mental, some are financial, others are relational, and some are deeply spiritual questions of purpose, faith, and meaning that quietly occupy the mind late at night. These struggles do not always have visible signs. There is no uniform way pain presents itself, and that is why assumptions are so dangerous. Remembering unseen struggles also teaches patience. People heal at different speeds. Growth is not linear. Someone may appear to move backward while still making progress internally. And just because a person hasn't found their strength yet doesn't mean they won't. Sometimes survival itself is the victory of the day. There is also comfort in knowing that you are not alone in your own struggles. When you feel isolated in your pain, remember that countless others are carrying burdens of their own, even if they seem composed. This does not minimize your pain, but it reminds you that struggling does not make you weak, it makes you human. Compassion begins when we realize that life is testing everyone in different ways. And perhaps the true measure of character is not how we treat people when it is easy, but how we treat them when they are difficult, when they are irritable, withdrawn, or broken. Because often, difficulty is simply pain speaking through behavior. Let us be gentle, not because everyone deserves it, but because everyone is fighting something. Let us listen more and assume less. Let us respond with mercy rather than judgment, with understanding rather than criticism. And let us remember that sometimes the most powerful thing we can offer another soul is not advice or solutions, but presence. Every soul carries unseen struggles. And when we truly accept this, we begin to create a world that feels a little safer, a little kinder, and a little more human. Hope is one of the quietest strengths a person can carry, yet it is among the most powerful. It does not always arrive with certainty or clarity. Sometimes it comes as a fragile thought, barely strong enough to be felt, whispering that this moment is not the end. And in times of darkness, when answers seem distant and relief feels delayed, that small whisper can be enough to keep the heart alive. Darkness has a way of convincing us that it is permanent. When pain lingers, when prayers feel unanswered, when the road ahead looks unclear, the mind begins to assume that this is how life will always be. Yet darkness, no matter how deep, is never designed to last forever. Just as night gives way to dawn, hardship too has its limits, even if we cannot see where those limits are yet. Hope does not mean pretending everything is fine. It does not deny pain or ignore reality. Hope simply means believing that there is more to the story than this chapter. It allows you to acknowledge your hurt while still trusting that healing is possible. And that balance between honesty and trust is where strength is formed. Many people believe that hope is something you feel only when life is going well. But true hope often appears when life is at its hardest. It is easy to be hopeful when outcomes are clear and doors are open. But it takes courage to hold on when everything feels uncertain. That is when hope becomes an act of resilience rather than emotion. There are moments when hope feels distant, almost unreachable. In those moments, it helps to remember that you do not need to see the entire path ahead. You only need enough light for the next step. Even the smallest sign of progress, a moment of calm, a kind word, a brief sense of relief can be a reminder that darkness is not absolute. Hope also teaches patience. It reminds us that timing matters. What we want immediately may arrive later in a form we never expected. And sometimes delay is not denial. Sometimes it is preparation. Growth happens quietly during waiting, shaping us for what we are not yet ready to receive. One of the most beautiful aspects of hope is that it can exist even when circumstances do not change right away. You may still face difficulty. You may still feel tired. But hope changes how you carry the weight. It lifts the heart just enough to keep moving forward, one step at a time. Hope also thrives on remembrance. When you look back and recall moments you once thought you would never survive, you realize how far you have already come. Past resilience becomes proof that future strength is possible. If you were guided through previous storms, there is reason to believe that this one too has an end. In darkness, hope may come through people, a conversation, a message, a reminder that someone cares. And sometimes hope comes from within an unexpected sense of calm that cannot be explained, but is deeply felt. These moments are not accidents. They are reminders that you are supported even when you feel alone. It is important to protect hope. Negative voices, whether from others or from within, can slowly erode it. Doubt, fear, and comparison can make the future feel smaller than it truly is. That is why it is essential to be mindful of what you allow into your heart during difficult times. Feed it with encouragement, gratitude, and trust rather than despair. Hope does not require you to be strong all the time. It allows you to rest. It allows you to cry. It allows you to admit that you are struggling. But it gently reminds you not to give up. Not today. Not now. Even in the darkest moments, hope remains a constant, not always loud, not always visible, but always present. It waits patiently, reminding you that light exists beyond what you can currently see. And sometimes, holding on to hope is not about changing the world. It is simply about believing that tomorrow can be different from today. In the rush of life, it is easy to lose sight of what truly matters. Days become filled with deadlines, expectations, comparisons, and endless distractions. We move from one responsibility to another, often without pausing to ask whether the things consuming our energy are actually nourishing our hearts. And yet, deep within, there is always a quiet reminder, a gentle call, inviting us to return to what truly matters. Returning does not mean going backward. It means realigning. It means letting go of what has weighed us down and rediscovering what brings clarity, peace, and purpose. Often the heart becomes tired not because it is doing too little, but because it is carrying too much of what does not serve it. What truly matters is rarely complicated. It is found in sincerity rather than appearance, in depth rather than display. It lives in connection, in gratitude, in moments of stillness that allow the soul to breathe. Yet these are often the very things we neglect first when life becomes busy. There is beauty in simplicity, in stripping life back to its essence and remembering that fulfillment is not measured by how much we accumulate, but by how aligned we are with our values. When we return to what truly matters, priorities shift. We become less concerned with impressing others and more concerned with being at peace with ourselves. Many people spend years chasing what they believe will make them happy, only to discover that contentment was always found in what they overlooked. Time with loved ones, moments of reflection, acts of kindness done without expectation. These are the treasures that do not fade, yet they are often sacrificed for temporary gains. Returning to what truly matters also brings healing. When the heart is overwhelmed, it is often because it has drifted too far from its foundation. Reconnection brings stability. It reminds us of who we are beneath the noise, beneath the labels, beneath the pressure to constantly prove ourselves. There is also courage in returning. It requires honesty to admit that some paths we pursued did not bring the fulfillment we hoped for. It requires humility to let go of pride and expectations. But in that humility there is freedom. Freedom from comparison. Freedom from constant dissatisfaction. Freedom to live intentionally rather than reactively. What truly matters grounds us during difficulty. When plans fall apart and certainty disappears, values remain. Character remains. Faith, patience, and gratitude remain. These are anchors in times of uncertainty, reminding us that while circumstances may change, purpose does not have to. Returning is not a one-time event. It is a continuous process. Life will pull us away again and again, and each time we are invited to gently come back, to pause, to reflect, to reset. This is not failure, it is awareness. And awareness is a gift. There is also beauty in realizing that it is never too late to return. No matter how far one feels from peace, from clarity, from meaning, the door is always open. One sincere step is enough to begin again. One honest moment can shift the direction of the heart. When we return to what truly matters, we become more present. We listen more. We appreciate more. We rush less. Life may not become easier, but it becomes clearer. And clarity brings peace, even in the midst of challenges. In the end, what truly matters will not be the noise we made or the things we owned. It will be the hearts we touched, the intentions we carried, and the sincerity with which we lived. And there is deep beauty in living a life that, no matter how busy or complicated it becomes, always knows how to find its way back home.